I watched the show. I'm in the 10th or 11th episode right now. And I must say, it's so refreshing, relatable, sweet, and, carefully touches sensitive subjects too. I want to know from each of you, what made you guys say an absolute yes to the show?
It's definitely the script and the story. When I read it the first time, I still remember. They'd sent me the first three episodes of the series, and I was laughing out loud when I was reading it, and I just knew that I had to be part of it simply because it was, some of the most important messages have been said in a
Yeah,
very light-hearted manner, and yet
true.
are impactful at the same time. And I felt that these messages need to be communicated to everybody, and how beautifully the writers Ashutosh and Pankaj have done it through the script. And of course, I think Maina was a brilliant character to play. And it was a fun, nice family, entertainer. So there was no reason to not do it. You know, so, and plus, of course, the backing of Culture Machine and Hotstar, you knew that,
Yeah.
it'll reach the right audiences, because you can make a great show, but if it doesn't reach the right audiences, then there's no point.
True.
Um, so, of course, the combination of it being a great script and, being backed by two solid, people was the reason for doing it.
This was something, which I had never done before. The character of Chattis itself, it has so much to do in it. When I read the audition script, I was like, यार ये तो मेरे पास पहले कभी आया ही नहीं है. I've
Mm-hmm.
been always gotten scripts where I'm doing angry young man, or something in that similar line. But
Yeah.
Chattis or Maina, and then when we went for reading, the script
Yeah.
was so good that on paper, that I told Ashutosh and Pankaj also, that it's so beautifully written script that there is no reason for me and a
Mm-hmm.
platform like Hotstar who would say no to it.
So, again, Sandeepa,
Yeah.
coming back to you, I really loved how you stepped into the shoes of an item girl. You portrayed it very sensitively, and there were times it felt like I was looking at Maina and not an actor out there. And you are so full of energy. I mean, the dance, your moves, like everything was so on point. So, I want to know from you, what was your creative process in approaching Maina? Like, did you meet other dancers too to understand their lifestyle and things like that?
I think my primary research was on the Nachaniyas itself. I
Yeah.
did meet them because we were also in a the Corona pandemic period, so you can't really go out there and meet people. So a certain search engine was my best friend during that time, because you can get everything these days online. So I did a lot of research on Nachaniyas, primarily to understand what kind of people are there. And of course, study the body language a little bit, and because I'm a very, very urban girl, so for me to play something that is so raw and rustic, needed an overall, change of things and pace. So, of course, I did that. I also watched a couple of films which were based on certain similar characters, because I also wanted to see how differently can I play it from what everybody else has played it. Um,
Yeah.
so that was primarily, and I feel like the script in itself gives you everything. Like, I didn't really need to rack my brain too much. I just knew there is a certain crassness that I don't want to bring in, and I want to take
Yeah.
that out, because usually
Mm-hmm.
up till now Nachaniyas have been portrayed as being slightly crass. That is something that I made sure that I knew that I didn't want to play it like that. I didn't want
Mm-hmm.
Mena to be portrayed like that, because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's where the perception of Nachaniyas is something that's also questioned in the show as well, because they're
Yeah.
they're not really respected. And in fact, Jugnu says it ki
Yeah.
ye Nachaniya hai. So, and
Mm.
Chattis says so, like, for him it doesn't make any difference. So I felt like that I needed to bring in, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how I kind of looked at every possible video out there of real life Nachaniyas,
Mm-hmm.
um, and picked up a little bit from here and there. Took some stuff from my own personality, put it in Maina, and
Okay.
took stuff from everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as a dancer, because I'm a dancer myself, so
Yeah.
I think, that wasn't very difficult part. Playing a dancer was not a difficult part. Playing the item girl in the most conventional way was something that I didn't want to play it in a conventional way.
Because I really wanted to know that, like how do you feel the portrayal of an item girl is perceived in the society? Since you portrayed one, so do you feel is it changing now or are they still stereotyped? Like in the show, as you said, there were moments, they are categorized into one. Like there was this little girl who wanted to read something, and then at the shop, the guy again mocked her. So how do you think? Like, is it changing now?
I think the fact that we're bringing this out, these small things that we're bringing it out in shows, we're actually kind of forcing people to think about it at least, right? I'm assuming we are part of the change now. We're trying to bring about that change in perception.
Yeah, you
Um,
are.
so would I say that it's completely changed? No. I think there's a certain perception, but I feel like earlier, dance was not even considered as something that you can, chase. It's like, हाँ
True.
dance करती है लेकिन करना क्या life में? That was
हाँ.
always a thing. But now at
Like a
least I
side.
think dance as a profession has gotten a certain amount of respect. I still dislike the word item. I think this whole item is a very derogatory way of referring to dancers. Um, that is something that really needs to change. People need to stop calling it that. But I think it's through shows like this, and I full kudos to the writers, to Culture Machine and Hotstar for putting this into a show. Because it's only then will it change. Now, if I'm not only going to bring such topics onto the main platforms, how is the change going to happen? So I'm glad that strong platforms are backing stories like this, and hence then a certain change will come about.
I just want to add to that. Also, in its literal sense, it's just an art form. Nachaniya means dancer. Dancer, they are dancing. It's an art form that we are doing. So we have in our heads, we think it in a different way, but there's nothing other than this. It's an art that people are portraying.
So, Vikram, the kind of guy you portray is the kind of guy we're all looking for. And, after you portrayed Chattis, it sort of feels कि आपने expectations बढ़ा दी of how an ideal boyfriend needs to be. So, and again, at the same time, Chattis is very rare to find at small town villages, because more often than not, we find them very aggressive. Like how your father is in the show. So, what was the brief you were given, when you had to approach Chattis?
I don't think that the guys like these are hard to find, because set में तो मुझे ही सब 36 बोलते थे, that in real life I am like 36. Sandeepa ही बोलती थी मुझे that,
Yeah.
and I used to say no, I am not like 36.
He's not
But
like this at
now
all.
that I have played it, I think that somewhere, yeah, now that I've played it, I think there is a bit of 36 in me, and I think that helped me to play 36 also, because I come from a small town. Uh, there are few things in 36 which, if I think about me, there. So that helped me. And see, I think the storyline itself had so much in it to work on 36. I mean, the simplicity, the innocence this guy had, and um, he was so raw in itself. The character was so raw in itself that everything he used to uh, think from a different mindset. Like a person from who's not 36, who doesn't have that sense, would think in a different way. Like जैसे संदीपा ने कहा कि वो नचनिया, he said कि तो क्या हुआ नचनिया हो तो, every other guy would have thought in a different way. यार नचनिया है तो I should think about
Yeah.
it before getting in a relationship
Yeah.
with the girl like that. But 36, the character himself doesn't think that way. So वही इतना कुछ था for me to work on this character, that this is there's so much difference in the way people think and in the way 36 thinks. So I just have to think opposite of everything that happens in real world. So that is how
Okay.
I prepared for 36 also. So the first thing that used to come in my mind, that is not what 36 is thinking. I have to think
Achha.
opposite of that. So that is
Okay.
what 36 is thinking.
Okay. This is interesting. So, since Chattis Aur
Yeah.
Maina shows the relevance of, old school romance trapped inside a modern love story, how do you guys look at relationships of this
Hmm.
generation?
Hmm.
That mutter chilne wala date idea is so iconic.
I know.
It's
Now I believe you have
you
seen, you
know.
have watched the entire
You know,
episodes.
you know what was that was my deciding factor on doing the show. It was when I read the Matar scene. I was like,
Yeah.
this is hilarious. Like, imagine their first date is sitting on a tree and chillowing mutter and
Yeah.
conversing about each other. I mean, it's a very normal conversation that they're talking about each other, normal conversation. And
Yeah.
वो मटर छील रहे. I found that so hilarious and
Yeah,
something that was not explored at all. But
Mhm.
anyway, that is
right.
sorry. Coming to today's relationships, I think today's relationships are very fragile. Um, and I think people don't have patience. And and but I'm a diehard romantic at heart, so I would want my relationship to be like Chattis Aur Maina. I'm a sucker who will sit and watch all of these shows like Chattis Aur Maina and want my relationship to be like that. So I'm very old school like that. So
I get
yeah.
I
it.
think
I
today's generation, I think in the generation today has to maintain a balance between, being career oriented and being family oriented. I think they are shifting more towards the career and the ambition part of it, and forgetting that the real happiness lies in family, in the values. And if there has to be a balance, that has to be maintained. So
Mhm.
uh, that is one thing. And I have been in a relationship for the longest time, and now I'm married also to that girl.
Yeah.
So I think I have maintained that balance in my head also. तो वो इम्पोर्टेंट है यार कि आप बहुत लेट रियलाइज करते हो कि यार फैमिली भी जरूरी होती है.
Earlier question, maybe when you were saying that very Chattis are very rare to find, maybe they aren't. Maybe there are lots of Vikrams out there.
हो सकता है, but I think we have given up on finding those
Lots of
people.
Vikrams, yeah.